My name is Hector Dominguez. I'm coordinating work on open data privacy, surveillance technologies, and automated decision systems at the city of Portland. Thank you so much for joining. The artificial intelligence is having such a boom right now. Many different outlets and people are talking about the importance and emergence of AI, particularly since last year, maybe a little bit more with all the changes and evolution on something called generative AI. Generative AI is a new generation of technologies around this concept of idea of artificial intelligence. And I will go a little bit about that and on why is this important and what are the main risks and challenges of using artificial intelligence, and at the end, what the government in general is doing, what our city in Portland, Oregon, what we are doing here, and what is going to be next. Right, let's move forward. This is where we're going to be looking in general. The flow of this, introduction is going around some questions, statements. It's intended to be around 30 minutes long, and then I'm going to start. We're going to have a conversation. So questions, comments are going to be welcome. I'm going to also, that section is not going to be part of the recording. I'm going to start recording once I finish my presentation. So this presentation will describe general aspects of artificial intelligence and is intended to reach the general public in Portland, Oregon. That includes all the residents, visitors, and city staff, and even staff from other jurisdictions. Everybody is welcome here. I'm going to try to use the least technical terms. Some of you who are joining live or watching this recording might be more familiar with those, but some of you might not. Some of these ideas might be completely new. So I'm going to try to reduce all these technical terms and try to explain as much as possible what I'm talking about. I have one slide that was very difficult, but I'll do my best. So this presentation is also intended to be an introduction. So it's just an initial conversation. So I'm going to be sharing like what we are, like some definitions. So with that, we can actually start kind of communicating, talking to each other in better ways. And this is not the overall like truth of what's happening in artificial intelligence or technology in general, right? This is just one aspect, one perspective. And you as an audience, somebody who's participating here, you may have your own perspective. And what we want to have in Portland is, this like compilation of all the perspectives and try to find that common ground that allows the city to put together forward better policies, better programs, better strategies, and collaborate with our Portland community, which is like so rich, and also have the potential to be very engaged on all these different issues. The Smart City PDX program is a city of the Bureau of Planning. It's a program of the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, part of the city of Portland here in Oregon. And we have different lines of work that includes privacy, surveillance technologies, open data, data governance, and data services. Very recently, we started, I'm going to stop actually, I just realized the music in the background is still ongoing. So very recently, we included automated decision systems and artificial intelligence. What is artificial intelligence? And, answering this question in preparation to this presentation was kind of hard. Again, this presentation is intended to be friendly and open and accessible to everybody. Most of the definitions out there are very technical, either because they come from universities or academic circles, or they can come from industry, like vendors, companies that they have been working on artificial intelligence for decades. Experts in those companies who define these terms accordingly to their own context, right? Sometimes definitions come from government or agencies that are trying to standardize the use of these technologies or regulate the use of these technologies. And they need to be very precise on specific terms. So getting like a very simple definition is very difficult. This is what I came up. And you may have another alternative, but artificial intelligence is a collection of computing tools. That means that we need a machine, methods and procedures that use data and information for building models of the world to generate outputs, such as predictions, new content, recommendations, or decisions that can influence physical or virtual environments, the digital world. I added that graph that you see at the bottom, that is from the organization OECD, the AI principles, artificial intelligence principles, just to show you that for these tools, there is a workflow, and it's very intricate. So this workflow has many feedback loops in between. And everything goes around information, everything goes around management of that information. And there are different steps to transform the information from one input to a desired output, right? So you don't have to understand what every single module here is. But what my intention here is you need to understand that this is a whole flow. It's a pipeline of transformations that go from input to output. So in terms of these tools around artificial intelligence is really old. So the concept it comes from the 50s and it has been evolving. And it just includes like all these things that are here. This is a slide that is kind of hard not to be very technical sometimes, but well, autonomous systems that just go by themselves or they can regulate by themselves. Like you can think about robots, for instance, machine learning, deep learning, generative AI, and large language models, fancy terms, is basically like a collection that includes neural networks. It's basically this collection of tools that they are using data for training. The differentiation there is the scale of the data that these different tools use. So it's probably not well sorted out, but like the initial idea comes from mimicking what a human brain, neurons work, basically the interconnectivity in a human brain. So that was the initial concept of neural networks. Let's connect different transformation steps, processes in between, and let's see what happens at the end. And then the right answers, the answers that we want to train this network of neurons, artificial neurons, that's what we're going to be rewarding as positive, and the erroneous or the outputs that we don't want, those are going to be rewarding negative. And at the end, so we get the positives plus, and we are going to get a trained network to do that. So machine learning, they just come to a certain level of scale, and then that starts increasing, and there are some obviously differences in between. Deep learning goes, the scale goes even larger than few thousands, for instance. I mean, the number sometimes doesn't make sense, but the idea is that the scale, that the latest algorithms, for instance, they use billions, if not trillions of of these networks, connections generated among all different transformation points. And that's how more complex outcomes can be achieved. But also it comes with expense, right? So it has requires a lot of computing power. It requires a different ways of designing those tools and designing all these systems, right? And then there are, why are we using these? We may use it for pattern recognition, right? So just to see with a camera, we take an image, a picture, or that can be moving image, and then we identify a car, right? We identify now contextual issues. We identify a car that is on the street with a tree on the side, right? That is shaded, for instance. Anyways, pattern recognition. Classification. We may have information all mix up together. So we are trying to identify specific groups on clusters of information based on specific rules, right? So we are trying to identify in terms of, we have a farm, for instance, we are trying to identify chickens, cows, like pigs, goats, and here and there, right? So classification, natural language processing, the way that we communicate with each other. So it can be, we can generate transcripts, and then we organize our language in a way that we understand, a machine really can understand what we're talking about, right? It's a process of collection, the audio, transcript that, and then understanding what we're talking about, and then generating all these different outcomes based on that. And it can be like used for translation in between one language and another. And then chatbots and avatars. Those are virtual tools where they can represent like this, having this image of other people, but they're all virtual. They do not exist in reality. But they may have some way, some rules internally using all these different tools, for instance, to interact with a human. So that has been part of the like early dreams around AI. And this is just a set of tools, and is definitely there are more, but for now, let's stay with this. So uses and application of AI. So we have the tools, but why we're using these tools, right? And this, again, this is just like a quick list. People use those artificial intelligence tools for decision making, right? Also, modern activities, modern days, organizations, we collect incredible amount of information. It's so hard for a human, for a person to go and navigate through all that. So everything is digitalized, which facilitates access up to some extent. But then now we need something to have access to that, right? So we want to identify, classify all this information, help us to understand what's happening there. So processing large amounts of information. Identification and classification, right? So we want to understand what we have here and there, what happens at different times of the day, for instance, those sort of things. Having assistance, and then task automation. When things get very complex, you can imagine an agency in the city, for instance, they want to manage their fleet. You know, there is a number of vehicles just to give and provide a maintenance to bridges in Portland. So, but they just a certain amount of vehicles. They have a trajectory that they need to go across the city. So how are they going to do that? Who's going to plan ahead all that? So AI can actually help for that, for doing task automation in general. And just those are like simple examples. Industry has been really the one driving a lot of these. Academic organizations, of course, they also play a role here. Academic organizations mostly work on initial ideas like seeding projects, proof of concepts, just trying out things, right? Develop it, which is a lot of amazing people are working on that in the academia. But it's really industry. Where there is this economic motivation to put out there in the market a solution that resolves something, a problem, right? And through that, so we see Internet of Things, we see our smartphones, where there is a lot of automation already there, this idea of autonomous vehicles, your shopping cart, so all the different recommendations for you to watch in your next movie, they learn about what you like to watch at what time of the day. And they start putting together. So it's one individual, but what happens when many different individuals share similar tastes? Oh, well, there is a way to put together rules, right? Artificial intelligence can help with that. Web search, machine translations, helping to protect electronic devices, which is cybersecurity, fighting for disinformation. So there are so many things happening right now, like trying to classify and understand that the information that you get is real, is truth, and is not harmful. That's a great use of artificial intelligence. optimizing for products and sales, if you have a business, if you have a restaurant, those sort of things. So it has a very, like a plethora of good applications and uses. But then where are all the concerns coming from, right? Well, the fact that artificial intelligence, particularly modern ones, they need large amounts of information for training their models, right? Training data, from where that information is coming from. Most of the people are probably not aware that when we interact with the web, we interact with social networks, we interact with the digital world, we are creating this trail, a digital trail, information about who we are, what we are accessing, what we are liking, all those sort of things. When we are asking for services, paying taxes, paying with a credit card. So the amount of information that we generate, we know, like consciousness about that is enormous, and that information is being used to try to generate products to the public. But that implies also what are the aspects around privacy that are important there. What about if I don't want to share that personally, right? What about if you are recommending something that I don't really like and you are really pushing me to do that? Can I trust you or not, right? Within all this training, there is all the concerns about bias and discrimination derived from the use of AI, because some people may not be participating in this, and some people also may just have specific information that at the end may create harmful decisions on how they live and the way in which they can have access to opportunities in general, for instance, and that's definitely a big social concern. AI solutions may be used in warfare, right, and impacting human rights in general. And that's definitely an ethical discussion that I don't think just few start like really have the big perspective of everything that's happening. But if you are, living in Portland, you might be asking about that, right? So are you using artificial intelligence like developed for warfare in my town? Yeah, of course. Using intellectual property protected materials in general for training models. We know agreement, consent, what's there, right? Sometimes AI tools might be available for people that with not really good intentions, right? So how can we protect from abuse, from misuse, people that are not well trained about using artificial intelligence that may derive in negligence, right? So what are we doing around that? Then, as I mentioned, sometimes there are serious impacts on human rights and civil liberties. And then, like over trusting these technological tools might be also a big concern, right? What happens when the tools fail? What happens when there is a false outcome or something that is not right? Do we have a safeguard around that, like a safety net? How do we detect that? Can I trust your artificial intelligence solution? And those are just some of the concerns. Then why is artificial intelligence complex? Well, it requires a lot of computing power, as I mentioned, because there is a large amount of information to be processed in a time, and companies need to do it in a time that makes profit at the end, right? It makes sense. It's not going to take 2 years to have a solution with data that is already obsolete by the time that happens, for instance. That creates a really competitive environment. Different players are developing all these different artificial intelligence solutions, competing with each other. And in that level of competition, when there's no many rules, things may happen that are not very good. So creating an AI model may need advanced mathematics, right? And advanced training in general. And that also derives on who's doing that, who's really trained, and there is a limited number of people who sometimes can do specific tasks or specific designs. So talent is very limited, and it really requires a long education track. Training on an AI algorithm may require many different data sources, and connecting data sources in an environment where they are different. So it's like working with apples and oranges, and then we're trying to figure out how to make, I don't know, pineapple juice. It's complicated. So we need to standardize information in a way that it's workable. Uh, there are many occasions ethical issues, right? When there is not a real clear cut between the bad and the good that we are doing. Sometimes harms may justify, sometimes good may justify some harms. But where is that line, right? It's an ethical discussion and conversation. And definitely it requires interdisciplinary collaboration, particularly when doing assessment, protection, safeguarding of all this. It's not only a technical challenge, but it just becomes a social challenge as well. And economic, of course, economic, regulation, and all that. So why is important now? Well, because we live in a world where information is like huge and everything is already collected. So many companies and organizations want to use that as a way to offer better products, better solutions, right? All the modern problems and issues that we are living right now, they are compounding each other, right? Climate change, economic crisis, housing crisis, public health crisis. They're kind of all over the world, and artificial intelligence and data information systems can actually help. I believe they can help, but we need to do it responsibly, and we need to do it in collaboration with everybody, right? Computing systems now are faster, are really incredibly faster and very efficient. So it's not like, and this is changing sometimes like 3 months, every 3 months, you get a new hardware that is completely different to the one before, and it's just amazing. So that enables using more complex artificial intelligence solutions and trying more other things, right? Same happens with algorithms. So all the programs that are running all these models, again, there are new generations of algorithms that are companies are using and researchers are developing. So this is a constant change environment. And then companies are investing right now. They have been investing large amounts of money in capacity and infrastructure. So I think we will see a lot more of a push in the coming years. We're already seeing it, but in the coming years, it's going to be more like more and more as well. And we need to be ready as a government. So policies and government change is a lot slower than industry. So what to pay attention in artificial intelligence? Well, when an artificial intelligence solutions is in front of you, what do you need to ask? Well, you need to ask about what is the purpose of this, right? So I really understand what is the purpose of this solution, understand the nature of the solution. So how is that built? Is there any bias embedded on that? What is the training data that is being used? And you may have a concern, a checklist around AI that may include, are you using any sensitive information or private information? What are the bias? Is there any disproportionate impact against specific groups? Have you thought about any ethical conflicts, especially when there is, the special interest or just benefit some groups at the expense of other groups? There is a potential. What happens when there is an error? Is that going to create harm? Do we have a cybersecurity risk? Cybersecurity, again, is when we protect our identity, when we protect our computers. Is there any risk by using these artificial intelligence tools? What is the laws that are protecting and around this solution, right? Is there any law or no law? What happens there? Help me understand what are the safeguards, right? The data protections. Are you providing a clear information about your product and all these different questions? And then check if there is any false claims or around performance or outcomes, and try not to fall on this like a trap of techno solutionism, where is the belief that technology is going to resolve any problem, and the more technology we include, the better. right? So it's really looking into the complexities of the problem that what we are trying to resolve, and then balance out, between technology, resources, people, and how are we going to do that? And you can put it back into your own personal circles as well. So what is the government doing on all this? The federal government has created a number of policies that are starting to guide the development of policies at the federal government agencies, and it's like trickling down to other agencies. And the American federal government has been a little bit slow on putting together all this. The European Union has, I don't know, 5, maybe 10 years, like in advance of the working on all these, and that's okay. So as long as we just keep trying to protect and do the right thing, right, as government agencies. So the federal government has a blueprint on the Artificial Intelligence Bill of Rights. The Biden administration has relatively recently, published some executive orders around combating algorithmic discrimination and then creating safe, secure, and trustworthy artificial intelligence. At the Oregon state level, the governor has created an artificial intelligence advisory council to support how agencies are going to implement artificial intelligence. The last legislative session, there were a couple actually of bills that include AI, but particularly the one around informing and disclosing the use in election campaigns is really important, considering that it's protecting our democracy. Finally, at the city of Portland, we definitely have been working on artificial intelligence, and we are building this work on more foundational policies that include privacy, include open data and data governance, our face recognition bans, and the surveillance technologies policies. Go. All right, so next. So in the city of Portland, we are actually we support all this work on our core values that include anti-racism, equity, transparency, communication, clear communication, and honest communication, collaboration, and fiscal responsibility. That's another thing. The fiscal responsibility piece is really important. And then at the end, we want to be champions, really, of digital rights. And digital rights are human rights in general. Therefore, the work that we are doing on artificial intelligence and privacy surveillance technologies has been in close collaboration with our Office of Equity and Human Rights. So we have been, working in Portland, making them artificial intelligence is more than just an AI. So it's also, we are kind of labeling everything automated decision systems, which includes models and calculations, spreadsheets, and all the tools that help to make decisions automatically in general that are not necessarily artificial intelligence. Working on foundational like tools and policies, privacy, transparency, public participation, which is this session is an example of, figuring out how oversight of all this might look like, and working on data governance. We are also internally have been working on building procedures to determine impacts and risk assessments, particularly in the context of privacy. We are actually evolving these processes and procedures to also include artificial intelligence and algorithms. The city has already sent last year an internal guidance on what the use of generative AI for different staff, and is currently working on a more permanent policy for that. And then you can find more on this work in our website for automated decision systems. Finally, where to learn more. If you're interested about learning more, there's so many different sources, which is very exciting, but also it can be very overwhelming. Please Check out academic institutions, community colleges. They're starting also conversations about offering some classes on artificial intelligence, for instance, or universities. They also put together public events here in Portland State University, Oregon State University, University of Oregon. They definitely are very active on that. You want to learn more from the international agencies, the UN and their agencies, the OECD, the IEEE, which are international organizations. They definitely have a lot of information. At the federal level, government agencies, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, is part of the Department of Commerce and has been working on putting together standards around everything, algorithms, risk assessment, privacy, and artificial intelligence. Look into what the state is doing and all the local jurisdictions, the city of Portland, Multnomah County, and the counties in general, and Metro as well. There are think tanks and research organizations that constantly generate reports. Reports, can be very political sometimes. Take it always with a critical view, and try to understand and learn from all these different reports. Technology companies, they have many of them. Obviously, they need some internal policies, but also publicly they have published, they have released ethical guidelines and information on how to learn more about artificial intelligence. Personally, I really enjoy what IBM has put together, but you can see most of the big companies have something like that. And then, specific authors, books, researchers that you can always go find, subscribe to the podcast, or get the books, or just watch a webinar. Those are also great conversations. Local community-based organizations also are doing a lot of work in Detroit, New York City, Los Angeles. There are many different organizations that are actually working and doing great work on that. That includes also advocacy groups. All right, so with that, please stay in touch. Again, my name is Hector Dominguez. Visit our website at the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability in the city of Portland. We are part of the Smart City PDX program.